Hello, everyone, and welcome to the SavvyCast. This is Jamie, and I'm grateful to all of you who are joining, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on your favorite podcast platform. Today, my guest is Mr. Tim James. He is running in the Republican primary for governor, and I'm delighted to have you here, Mr. James. Thank you for taking time to join me.
Jamie, thank you. It's good to be on the podcast.
Well, first of all, can you just give us a glimpse into your family, your life? We know you live in Greenville.
So, Jamie, I grew up in Opelika and Alabama. I wound up going off to high school. I went to a prep school in Chattanooga called Baylor Preparatory School for Boys, and then went to Auburn. And I got to Auburn in 1980, and I met my bride-to-be immediately, actually, that summer. And we started dating. We dated through college, and Angela and I married in college. We have 3 children, 2 daughters and a son in the middle, and our oldest daughter, Fleming, was born in Auburn while we were there. And as you said, we live in Greenville, and we have 3 grandbaby boys. We have 2 just under 1 year old and 1 4-year-old. And my son, Tim, is in Mobile. He married a Mississippi girl. They met at Ole Miss, and they have 2 baby boys. And then Sarah, my baby, who went to University of Alabama, she lives here in Mount Brook with her husband, Mark David, and they don't have any children. So that's my family. And, my background is pretty easy, self-employed for the most part, most of my career. And the essence of my background is in construction and road and bridge construction, infrastructure. Lost a governor's race very narrowly back in 2010, missed the runoff by 158 votes, which we still laugh about. It wasn't funny at the time, but you just
shows that every vote does count.
It does count. And so, after that, we went back to work and never thought I would be back in politics, but I felt led, as did Angela. And so here we are in a governor's race at a time where the country is in a wreck and it's a mess. And I believe that if good people do not engage, we could lose the nation. So that's the short version of why I'm sitting here today. I guess, Jamie, if you ask me just specifically, this is about our children and our grandchildren. I mean, that's what this is. That's all. We get up in the morning, all we care about, we think about God, that, and then we think about our children, our grandchildren, and that's pretty much it. And I'm not the only one. I mean, people in general have a very clear assessment of where we are. They may see it not like I do and may not understand what's really going on to the degree that I might, but they know in their spirit and their gut that we're at a pivotal moment in time. I'm just turned 60 in March, and I've been down this road. Of course, my dad, as you know, Dad was a governor. Mm-hmm. So I don't have any illusions about this arena. We understand it very well. I really did think I was done over this decade or so since I ran. Started another business with my son and my son-in-laws, bridge construction type business. And we're heading off in that direction. And I don't know, maybe a year and a quarter ago, I began to, just get an unction, I guess, or that pull. And I say this, and it's funny. I told Angela, I said, honey, I think God intends us to think about politics, about this governor's race. And she said, well, you need to think about finding another wife. And it really was, that was the moment. I mean, you understand, I'm kidding, but I'm not kidding. Mm-hmm. And because we really never thought that we would be here in this thing. And so we began to pray, and believe it. I mean, Angela went from 180 degrees, as did I. And at the end of the year and Thanksgiving, all my brood came to Greenville, and we made the decision to run. It really was a miracle how there was this, it was a suddenly is what it was, this shift in our spirit to do this, because this was not something that I was anticipating for at all.
Well, I want to get into some specific questions that were asked, but my husband wanted me to ask you how you feel about what you know you're walking into, the attack on your integrity, your moral character, because anyone who runs for office is basically subjecting themselves to countless slings and arrows. How do you gird your loins for that kind of attack that you know will come?
Well, first of all, the battle is not against flesh and blood. We're dealing with principalities, and we fully understand Ephesians 6, and we walk in Ephesians 6, and you put on the armor, and we get that. But it's even more than that. Just coming from the world, my background, my family background, my father. I mean, we've seen this. It's uglier and meaner in some ways, but American politics is a rough sport anyway. If you ever study the presidential election of 1800 with Thomas Jefferson and John Adams, it was nasty by those standards. Now, the way they attacked each other was in written print, and it took a while, but it was very rough and tumble. It's just the speed and the velocity because of the media. Mm-hmm. That's the difference today. Right. So, but it's amazing how little I pay any attention to the junk. I really don't. Oftentimes, the attacks will come against the weaker vessels. They'll attack your children, mm-hmm. and that will bother you more than me. I'm the old Papa Bear here, but mm-hmm. your wives and your kids and things like that are obviously subjected to it as well. Oh. But that's the price you pay to serve, and that's also the reason good people have refused to engage, and they have to, good people have to begin to put their own personal wants and desires, and because it matters now. If it didn't really matter, yeah. But it does matter.
Well, that leads me to what we're going to start with, your ad, the one about the Acceptance Academy. Can you just explain to everyone what is going on there with that school, why you're opposed, and what you would do about it were you elected governor?
Okay, yes. So I heard about this school. It was a LGBTQ affirming school a year ago in the news, but I remember reading the article, and it read like it was a private school. The article never said clearly this is a state-funded school. And I didn't really understand, to be honest, the entirety of what funding in charter schools meant. So this is what a charter school is. In 2015, we passed legislation in the state creating charter schools. And a charter school is a public school, just like Mountain Brook or Hoover or Vestavia or any of them, okay? Mm-hmm. But it sort of has a bit of a different mission. And an example would be the Math and Science School in Mobile, mm-hmm. where they specialize in math and science, and kids qualify and they go to this charter school. And that's the difference. It's a specialty into the math and sciences. So you can see where there are charter schools that could be for other different reasons, mm-hmm. and that's the intent. And the law created a charter school commission. Well, all that means is these are people that are appointed to the commission, and they make the decision to grant the charters.
Who are they appointed by, Mr. James?
There's about 10 of them. Okay. 4 of them are appointed by the governor. I think one's by the lieutenant governor. The Speaker of the House has 1 or 2. So you have this commission, and that's called the Alabama Charter School Commission. And they're the ones who grant the charter. And you would have never thought much about it until this issue comes along. So this school or this group that wants to create this charter school, and they call it the Magic City Acceptance Academy, came forth and they submitted a request for the charter. And they said the reason for it is they want to create a safe school so children struggling in these issues, these identity issues, sexual orientation issues, and we're talking as young as 6th graders, can go to this school so they won't be bullied. It was all about being bullied. So these kids are getting bullied in the public school. This gives them a place to go where they can learn, they can go to school, get educated. That was the reasoning. Well, there must have been a lot of discussion at the time because the Charter School Commission voted on it 3 times. They voted it down the first time. They voted it down the second time. And on the third time, this would have been over a course of many, many months, They went in the third time, they went into executive session, which means they go off by themselves where no one can hear what's said. And they came out and they voted and they granted the charter on the third try.
May I ask you a question right there? Are any of these appointed by Governor Ivey or any of these people?
4 of them.
So 4 were appointed by Governor Ivey, and do they have to be unanimous or just majority?
I think it's a simple majority. And,
okay. Are their names printed anywhere?
Oh yeah, we know who they. Yeah. You're not going to know any of the names. They're just people that it'd be like if you wanted to be on the Alabama, if that was your thing, education, and you believe in. If you were a person and that education is your thing, you want good charter schools, math schools, you would try and get on that commission and be involved in it. But this was not the intent to create this sort of thing. So they did. And it rocks along. And about 6 weeks ago, we were talking, and it was when the swimmer, the male swimmer winning all the girls' swim meets. And somebody mentioned this school, and I said, no, but it's a private school. So they said, no, it's not. So we had a disagreement in the office, and they went off and did the research, came back that afternoon and said, no, this is a public school. It's a charter school. It's just like any other school. It's got this mission, and it's getting funded with $2 million of your taxpayers' money. So it turned out to be true. Well, instinctively in the beginning, I knew in my spirit and that this was nothing but the LBGT, that hardcore agenda to get children into their space where they can control them. So we are thinking about this, and 2 days later, I get a phone call from my campaign manager. He said, I am sitting here looking at this school, the Magic City Acceptance Academy's Facebook page, their public Facebook page, and they have posted these images that people have seen in these ads. The teachers putting on a drag show at the school on the grounds for the children. And at first I said, you go through a mental thing for about a day before it really dawns on you that this is real, that this is truly happening. So what we did, we said, well, we knew we had something that had to be exposed. So what we did, we had somebody go ahead and collect all the imaging, all the stuff on the Facebook page. Well, they started going back for months and coming forward. We have a principal in this school, and he's the guy that's been in the newspaper attacking me, claiming we're attacking these children. We have images of this guy multiple times by himself at the school in full drag, prancing around the school. I knew at the gut level that this was abuse. I knew that these people are indoctrinating these children. So you have children, most, not all, but many are struggling with identity issues, and their parents, the pain and what they're dealing with in some cases has got to be beyond anything that we can't imagine. And they're at wit's end. They don't know what to do. I have a friend, a lady who has gone through this, and she's a Christian woman. The only thing that I do know is I don't have all the answers, but I do know you love them, but you do not come into an agreement with a lie. You tell them, I love you, but this is not who you are. You were created in the image and the character of God. You are special. You are valuable to God. He loves you. Well, they have taken these children going through this thing, and many of them, especially young girls, come out of this with proper supervision in their early 20s. They'll go through this, and I don't get it. I'm just telling you the facts. And so there was no way to tell this story without the images. And it just so happens that the images of the teachers in drag hit the day after we were talking about it. It just happened. And it wasn't like we were all this clandestine stuff. It was right. They gave it to us. Mm-hmm. And all we did was put it on television and told the people of Alabama, this is going on with your taxpayers' money.
May I ask you one question? Yeah. So Kay Ivey signed this, or this school would not have happened.
All right. So that's where the buck stops, and that's where the breakdown is. So they granted the charter, but it's the funding is the issue. So the legislature passed the budget for that year, and it included the $2 million for this charter school. They take it to the governor. Now remember, this has been well known. It's been voted on 3 times with the commission, of which 4 of the people were her appointees. Everybody knew it if you were inside the clique. And the governor signed the budget appropriating the $2 million. So she did it. She owns it. Had I been governor and I'd been sitting in the chair that day, I would have looked at the legislators across the table and I said, all right, you got 2 choices. Either take it out or I'm going to veto the budget. You decide. And I guarantee you they would have taken it out so quick your head would swim.
And may I ask you this? How are these things even going on with quote unquote conservatives in charge? That's a big question. What do you say to that?
We have a situation in our legislature that we've never seen before. We've never been here when the Republican majority in the House and the Senate wants 10 casinos. They were able to hold it up because they had a falling out with a bunch of the Democrats. This medical marijuana bill they passed, which is nothing but a syndicated drug cartel to peddle marijuana on the street disguised as medicine, which it's not. It's a terrible decision. It needs to be repealed. Huge taxes. And then going along with the insane COVID mandates, masking children against their parents' wishes. This is, and these are Republicans. I mean, you have a Republican majority in the House and the Senate. The Speaker of the House, who fortunately is leaving, he's been right in there with the governor. But the governor's office is where the buck stops. The governor has tremendous power in all of these questions and can shut it down on a dime if they want to. The governor had vetoed the budget, and that money had never been appropriated. The school would not be there today. Now, they might have a charter, but it would kind of fizzle out because it was never funded.
Where does Alabama stand in our school ranking?
We're at the bottom of the pack, just to put it in context. In the early 2000s, 2005 to 2010, we were in the 30s in reading, in the 20s, in the mid to high 20s in math. That's 3rd and 8th grade. Now we're at the bottom of the barrel, all at the same time that revenue going into the education trust fund has been growing at double the rate of inflation. So you've had this massive movement up over this decade in revenue, and our education scores statewide, K through 12, have absolutely crashed into the basement. And it's hard to believe. I mean, if you stood back from it and said, how did this happen? How can you do this? And it's almost like you have to try to do it. That's how crazy it is. And what's happened is the structures in Montgomery, the special interests, the AEA, the unions, basically, their mission is to take care of themselves first. And when they do that, it is not to worry about educating children. I mean, the existence of the structure is what matters. And wherever you have a situation where the structures, the bureaucracies in Montgomery are happy with the governor, and they are because they're funding our campaign, that means that they're getting their way. You've got to have conflict. You got to have resistance. And if you don't have resistance every day, then I promise you, children in schools, Alabama working families are getting the bad end of the deal every time. You can't do it.
But I want to know what you would do in your first week, months to change what needs to be changed in this situation with the charter school.
Well, first thing I would do is I would have a bill ready to go first day to shut it down. If not, I would do it by executive order because this is abuse. They are abusing these children emotionally and psychologically. I won't tolerate it for a minute. This is how twisted this thing is. So they attacked me. They said, this guy's threatening these children. This is about the children. You love children. As I said, you're dealing truth. This is a form of abuse, certainly psychological abuse on these children. So we are going to protect children, all of these children. And my heart just breaks, and especially for parents struggling with this, because I've never had to deal with this sort of thing. But I'm not going to lie to these children. I'm going to be honest. And we're not going to allow this in our public schools. We have situations even right now where you have teachers, and they'll tell you this privately. They won't say it publicly. They'll say, I'm sitting in class and I have a kid They just came in. Last week, they were Charlie. This week, they want to be Betty and change their pronouns. And we're not going to do that in our public school systems. You're going to, a teacher is not going to, in this state, if I'm governor, you're not going to perpetuate a lie, and you're going to refer to the kids in your class by their true sex, the boys and the girls. And you're not going to play these games, and we are not going to come into an agreement with this garbage in this state. If I'm governor, I'm just not going to do it. I've come under major assault, attack by the national LGBTQ. I mean, it's a visceral bunch, but that's, I knew that going in. And so basically, Jamie, look, we are in a battle for the soul of this nation. This is about who we are as a people. We're going to maintain our Judeo-Christian foundation, or we will lose the nation.
How would you, in your first days in office, address the biggest problem, which is our schools? What would be the first things you would do?
We've already started preparing the plan of what we intend to do. You got to get discipline back in the classrooms. Teachers are not babysitters. Their job is to teach, and they can't teach when they have two kids in the class out of control every day. And you don't throw them by the wayside, but you can do something different. The second thing is principals. You got to get the best principals in these underperforming schools. But more than that, you got to give them total ability to do whatever they need to do and hold them accountable. And accountability means grade scores are going up in that particular school year over year. And then this thing that you hear a lot of talk about, and they different names, but they call it school choice or the money follows the child. What that means is right now, the way funding in our public schools work, the state funding per child is about $5,600 each. And it's based on the number of children in each school. So if you had 100 kids, $5,600 would go there and so forth. But what this does is this allows a parent the right to say, no, I'm not happy with this school. It's a wreck. My children can't learn. They're out of control. I want to take my child. So give me a voucher for the money that's due my child. I'm going to take that voucher, and I can go to any other public school that I choose that has an opening. I can go to any private school that wants to accept vouchers. I can go to any church school that wants to accept the vouchers. I can homeschool, because homeschoolers, which are, by the way, is crazy how many they are because of COVID now. And there was already a lot prior, and their grade scores are off through the charts. And so I can homeschool and keep the money that's going to my child. Those three things alone will have a tremendous impact on the system. The competition of it is healthy, and you can really begin to turn this thing around in 2 or 3 years. The third grade is the essence, the foundation years. If a child's reading in the third and math, they make it. And if they're not, then they fall behind. And, this statistic is still amazing to me, that the correlation between third graders in prison. I mean, if you think about that, if we know that and believe it, and it's true that if they're scoring when they leave the third grade at that, they don't go to prison, it costs us $25,000, $30,000 to incarcerate somebody in prison. You collapse the prison numbers. So, Jamie, it's not complicated, and it's well known, but no one's had the will to do it.
How quickly could you implement the school choice or the school vouchers?
It will you could do, some of this stuff is statutory, which is just state law and can be changed by the legislature. Some of it is constitutional, which means the people have to vote on it. 93 cents or 90 cents on every tax dollar is earmarked. So anytime you start tinkering with the money, that's a constitutional change. So as a governor, this is what I would do. Over these next months, we begin to take this plan to the people of Alabama. I'll travel the state into every county, city you call town hall meetings, and you begin to lay this plan out and what you intend to do. And we will be ready immediately. And after I take office, lay the legislation on the table. of the legislature and demand they sign it. The statutory changes can be made immediately. And then the constitutional stuff would have to go on the ballot at the next. And I guess you could call a special vote of the people sooner if you want to have an earlier vote. And that's how you do it. And there are plenty of just unbelievably talented people that are ready and they have been thinking about this stuff their entire lives. And, I come in, I've gone in and out of it. So there's a lot that we're not doing something that's not well versed and understood. Now, the one area that you might find interesting, and this was an area that I was struggling with. I get the schools, charter schools, or any other kind of schools, private schools, church schools in the urban areas. But there's West Alabama, I couldn't sort out how do you do this, because we don't have the money to just start building schools everywhere. The infrastructure cost. And I was with the head of the Alabama Church School Association, his name is Robin Mears. He's been doing this his entire life. And he said, no, he said, the infrastructure is already there. The infrastructure is in the churches in Selma, in Camden, in Demopolis, in Thomasville, all these places. They've already got the infrastructure. They just need someone that knows how to do it and to model it and start these schools in these communities. I went up to Mountain View. It's a church school up in Northeast Jefferson County, right off Chalkville Road. This has been, 3 weeks ago. And I went to the school because I've heard about it. They're killing it. And they're doing it for under like $4,000 a student, a kid. It works. So this stuff that you can't do it, you can't turn around. It's just nonsense. You can, but you got to have the very best leadership. And so when it finally clicked, or they explained to me how we'd solve the infrastructure problem, because it's already there, you can open this up across the entire western side of the state, all the way down from Tuscaloosa all the way to Mobile, and have an immediate impact. And we have teams of people that are they know what they're doing. They know how to do it. They know the exact model, how you build this stuff out.
Give everyone an image of what you stand for and how you differentiate yourself from the current governor, Governor Ivey, and maybe some of those running.
In the polls, we are a clear second behind Kay Ivey. And our strategy is to get her in a runoff, one on one. Right now, you have 7 people in the race, so you have there's a lot going on, and so where you get it down to 2 people, where it's just 2 adults head to head for 3 weeks, having a very clear discussion on the issue. And I guess the reason I'm running is you do have to differentiate yourself with the incumbent, because it's about, when you remove an incumbent, you're kind of like saying, I'm firing and I'm hiring somebody else. Mm-hmm. And it's not pleasant. And this is not pleasant for me. Kay Ivey was a friend of my family. My dad gave her first position in his first cabinet in his first term. But this is not about me nor her. This is about our state at a time that really matters. As I said, it's the tipping point. And so somehow or another on these issues, sort of the in-state issues, we have just become total opposites. I mean, it's like we're on another planet, but we're both Republicans. I mean, she wants 10 casinos. I think that's insanity in this state. She passed a gas tax, a 55% increase in the tax. That's crazy in terms of on a percentage basis. This medical marijuana thing is probably one of the most dangerous things we've ever seen done. Medical marijuana has nothing to do with medicine. They're set up a syndicated state-run drug cartel where big money, wealthy people get licenses to get their own little pot shops in every little town so they can sell this, what they call medical marijuana, but it has nothing to do with medicine. It is nothing but a way to get dope on the street. And then their ultimate dream is to get to recreational pot, just like Colorado. That's the game plan. And she would sign the legislation. I got to get it repealed immediately before that stuff gets entrenched. And then, of course, the bigger picture cultural war that we're going to fight, which is really the most important stuff. It's hard to believe that I'm talking about another Republican, somebody that I really like. But this is where we are. The governor is a very powerful individual. There's only 50 of them in the country. Governors now really, because of the usurpation or the overreach, as they call it, or, this unconstitutional stuff that has come from Washington, governors now are stepping into the true constitutional authority they've had it all along. They just never really thought about it because you hadn't been under an assault like we've watched in the last couple of years. So governors have wield a tremendous amount of authority. Just they control the prison system. It's their job to run it. Law enforcement, the entire law enforcement component of our entire state is in the hands of the governor. Same with mental health. The governors serve as chairman of the board of trustees of all the public universities. And then governors also are the president of the state board of education. And I intend to be very, very active in it. Very seldom do governors really spend a lot of time. And that you have to go sit there a few times a year all day. But just being there is a presence of it. Mm-hmm. Just asking tough questions makes people get crazy and scares them to death because they don't want to be exposed. Mm-hmm. And so just the presence of a governor into an issue makes a tremendous difference in how people act.
Mm. Well, I cannot thank you enough. And I would love for you to come back because my apologies to all of the friends online who submitted questions, but I feel like our conversation on the issue of school, what's happening, the charter schools, it needed to be explored. And I think we touched almost every angle of education and where you would take our state if elected. I want to thank you again. You are very kind.
Well, Jamie, thank you so much. I want to say one thing to your listeners. My webpage is Tim James Governor. I just want to obviously ask for your vote. And, I would say to your listeners, this is the time to get engaged. This is not one to sit out. Good people must engage. I know why I'm here, but I'm just a man who happens to get this stuff. But I need an army and I need good people. I need men, women, rich, poor, black, white in every county. And I'm asking to join this crusade and we can take back this state. We can turn this stuff around and we will be a beacon of light. I'm going to tell you something is Alabama is stepping into her destiny, her fullness, and Alabama in the years ahead are going to lead the nation. And the reason for that is Alabama over these years has not gone the way of the world. And Alabama is going to stand for its righteousness is what it is. It means we are right in God's eyes in moral, the things that we do and are morally correct and morally right. And other states will see this, even though we're a small state, and they will say that moms and dads and grandmoms and granddads, they will say that is the world. That is the sort of state that we want our children to grow up in. So we have a major role to play here in our state, but also moving forward amongst the nation.
Wonderful. And vote on May 24th. And if you cannot vote, get an absentee ballot, which you go online to do that. Tell all your friends and your family to get the ballot if you're not going to be able to vote, because May 24th is the day many schools get out that day or the day before. So it's important to bookmark that. Super important. But Mr. James, thank you. Safe travels to you, and you come back anytime.
Thank you so much, Jamie. Love being on your show.
Thank you. And you have a blessed day.
You too. Bye-bye.